Okay, so welcome to another week of our show. It's me and Jer and our personal development show. Each week we bring an idea to the table. This week it's my turn. So we're going to get straight into this. If you've been following along, we've been studying Decision by Earl Nightingale. Well, his take on decision, because me and Jer want to master the art of making the kind of decisions that bring us face to face with the best possible life for us. Because there is a big difference from making a decision of what you're having for tea compared with making the kind of decisions that are going to bring you a better life. So here is the idea that I've spotted today because we listen to a 15-minute clip by Earl Nightingale every single day, and there's always something that sticks out to us. And this is the phrase that stuck out for me today. So an authentic person experiences the reality of himself by knowing himself, being himself, and becoming a credible, responsive person. Now, again, when you look at that at face value, there's not a lot in it, but there's actually loads in it. And by the way, I know it says himself, this could be herself. It was recorded in like 1973, I think, this recording. So I've just used the exact words. So what we've learned from this decision is that a person who's making the kind of decisions is a winner. And a winner is defined not by beating someone else, not by violating someone else. It's by being credible and responsive and to be an authentic person. So the goal here is to be authentic in your decision making. So what Earl's saying here is that an authentic person experiences the reality of himself by knowing himself. So it always comes back to me or to you, always, every single time. And I think this has stuck out for me today because I've been doing a lot of work on the lead up to my book, which is actually called Who the Hell Are You? Which is all about self-discovery and getting to know yourself so you can understand how you work, so you're able to put yourself to work to go and get the things that you want out of life. And this is why this is sticking out to me. It's got to be. So the reality of himself. Now, the reality of himself to me is your wants. Like we all want things and we don't want to get, we want to grow. And it's quite a natural thing. So we've got to understand where our wants come from. And where they come from is somewhere deep inside. And they can come to you like in hunches, could be on holiday or something, and they just rise to the surface every now and then. And if we're not aware of that, we'll just let them go and then nothing will happen. Our lives won't change. But our wants are coming from that spiritual side of us, like the essence of who we actually are. And again, by knowing the reality of yourself, that we're essentially spiritual beings living in physical bodies. And to know the reality of yourself and how that works, then you come to know yourself. And again, that is massive as well, because your present self is nothing more than a load of conditioning that you've picked up through childhood and through every person you've met and you've identified with to get here. So we're talking about your habits, in your thought habits, your behaviors, your beliefs, your values. So that's how like knowing yourself, that's how deep it goes. So then in order to be yourself, you've got to look inwards to this spiritual side and look at your wants and start examining all of these beliefs because a lot of them will be limiting you. Like it's almost a guarantee. So in order to be yourself, you have to understand where your wants come from and how to respond to them. And then you become a credible, responsive person. So this is more the attitude side of who you are. So credible to me is being a valuable person who's been successful in some form, and responsive in a way where, say, a negative thing comes to you, you don't just react to it. You have the attitude and the awareness to like internalize it, view it, and then respond accordingly as a reality of yourself. So that's how I see that. What are you seeing, Joe?
Oh, mate, that's amazing. It really is. I just want to say that's impressive, mate. I was just sitting back here listening to you thinking like you are so on point. I actually don't think I can see it from a different way, and you actually have explained it so well in such a such a really clear manner, mate. I'll actually applaud you on that. I was just sitting back listening, going, God, it's fucking brilliant just listening to you saying this. It's absolutely fantastic. I actually didn't really pick up on the reality. I was reading it and thinking that reality of himself, and I was thinking yeah, reality is like like what you want in your real like your reality, what you want in your real world. And then you just said it, and I was thinking, boom, that's it. That's exactly it. Like a non-autistic person experiences the reality of himself. Like it's who you really want to be. And to experience the reality of yourself, you have to, I'm going to basically say exactly what you said. You have to know yourself. And to know yourself is quite a challenge. That I think we touched a bit on the last episode is a lot to do with thought. And you have to look inward. And you touched on this again. Everything starts from within. Like your reality will change once you look within. Like everything around you will change. So by knowing oneself and being oneself, your outside environment will change completely because your perspective and how you look at the world will completely change. It's a powerful line. And again, we are studying decisions. So if by becoming a credible, responsive person, you will make more decisions, more effective decisions based on because you're more confident within yourself, because you're knowing yourself, you're being your authentic self. So you know who you are. So you will make decisions based on you. See, all got to do with you. It's got to do with like, you know, you will make more autonomic decisions because you know who you are, you know who you want to be, and you know where you want to go. And you will become a credible, responsive person. Now, credible to yourself, but also credible to other people, because you'll become across as a very confident woman, a very confident man. You become across as a very confident person in the eyes of other people because you always know when there's a guy comes in or a woman who comes in, they make a decision and they're a confident person. You look at them and go, you know, they're credible. If the way they speak, how they hold themselves. But knowing oneself and being oneself, those two phrases are very important. Knowing himself and being himself or being herself. That's all authentic. You are who you are. You're not this fake person who, you know, you go and meet a lot of people. I don't know what, for whatever reason, you're marketing, you're doing a new business, you go with your friends, you go out and you're this person. You're fake, you're putting on an act. And then you go and you speak to somebody else and you're this different person. So you're never your true self. So you're not your true self. So an authentic person who experiences reality of himself by knowing himself and being himself, is true to himself. And it's being authentic is the most important thing. It's being who you are, but you have to know yourself before to be who you are. It's kind of like a vicious. It's like a circle, isn't it? To be authentic, you have to know who you are, eh?
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And as you were talking there, I always got that Bruce Lee thing in my mind when I watched an interview of him, and he said to me, like martial arts is honestly expressing yourself. But I think he wasn't just saying that relating to martial arts, because he said it's a very hard thing to do. And I think an authentic person is doing just that. They're honestly expressing themselves. And you're right, Joe. You said you need to have the courage to be able to look at the reality of your present self because, we're both doing it and we've both done a lot of work. You do have to like, my lights are going here. You do have to like look at some stuff you don't necessarily want to look at. Do you know what I mean? And there might be pain in that. There's likely to be pain. There's emotion. There's unresolved there. But it's not necessarily true because you're building beliefs around this stuff and it's how you see the world and your model of the world. But it's not necessarily you. It's just a present version of you. What we're interested in is the future version of you, the version of you that's already inside and just needs to be like drawn out. And in order to do that, it does involve going back and going through all of the things that most of us don't want to look at. Let's face it, because there is a lot of pain in there, and there could be some emotion, some unresolved, and you need the courage to be able to move all of that out of the way because effectively that is what's in your way. That's what's stopping you most of the time. And if you don't know the reality of yourself in how you are and how you're made, then you're playing a game that's very hard to play. And the reality of himself by knowing himself. So with my book that I've just written, I read a line, and this line is what inspired me to write the book. And it was very close to this. It read, "It's never too late to be who you really are." So that line for me had me asking the question, who the hell am I? Another way to say that is who who am I really? Who am I? And this is what inspired me to write my book because I know it's just not me who had that issue. So yeah, I mean, you've been going through this, you've been finding limiting beliefs yourself, Joe. So how have you sort of found that process of
Um,
finding the
it's
reality of yourself?
it's inspiring, yes. So yeah, and touched on like knowing yourself and being yourself. And knowing yourself, it's so deep. It's so deep. So to get you to understand as a viewer where we're coming from with this is when we were kids, your subconscious is wide open. Your paradigm is wide open. So you just take in everybody else's beliefs. So like, my mother or my father or my brothers, my sisters, my friend, my small country village I grew up in, the people I worked with when I was doing my training for my first when I became an apprenticeship. I was a young person, my aunties, my uncles, everything, cousins, like you take on what adults tell you when you were a child and you create your belief system. Now, belief system, like I've heard of beliefs for years. I didn't really understand what they were. So loads of people have different names for it, like the unsubconscious, like a paradigm, like you know what I mean, your belief system. So your belief system is what your subconscious runs in the background. Like your heart pumps 24/7. Blood circulates in your body. You breathe, right? Without thinking about doing it. So there's a part of your brain that operates automatically so that, you know, the front part of the brain can do the thinking and you can live. So that same part of the brain controls your belief system. So you create all these beliefs when you're a child, and then you bring that into your adulthood. Now, they could be positive ones or they could be negative ones. And then when something happens it's something happens in your life and you want to make a big decision, you procrastinate. Like fear comes. Yeah, I've procrastinated on thousands of things. You know, I've had opportunities I haven't gone for. Like there's probably football, you know, teams I could have went and played with, but I didn't back myself for. There's millions of different, but why? But why? Why does that fear come? Why? Where does it come from? All of a sudden you have this fear and you don't want to make that decision. But where does that come from? Why is the fear there? Why are you scared to make the decision? And that's when you have to look within to find out by knowing oneself. Because when you then start finding like or start deep diving into your subconscious and you find out going, I didn't make that decision because when I was a little boy, I might have kicked the ball and I don't know, broke my window of my dad's house. And he came out and shouted at me. And I was scared. And I was scared as a young boy. So now I've made up a belief that doing something that I enjoy might, you know, upset somebody. So I won't make, then I bring that into my adult life. So I won't make that the decision because I'm worried that I will upset someone who I love. It's very hard to explain, but that's kind of the gist of it. So when you get to know oneself, when you get to listen to your thoughts, you have to create an awareness where you listen to your thoughts and then you just have to write it down. If you're scared to do something, you have to write it down and go ask, why? Why am I scared to do that? And that there is a reason why. The world works in logic. Like it's not magic. Everything in this world is logic. Electricity flows positive to negative. There's day, there's night. Water flows down. There's gravity. Everything in this world is logical. So there is a reason why you're coming up with this fear, this where it's coming from. So you have to deep dive into yourself and dig it out. You can do this by meditating and then writing. Me and Ant have a belief system that we use to dig out these beliefs, you know. And you have to work on yourself. And that's exactly what Earl Nightingale is saying. He says, like, by knowing yourself and being yourself, you can become a credible, responsible person. Because once you start doing this work, you start to get to know yourself and you start being yourself. Because the beliefs you pick up as a child, they're my parents' beliefs. And they got them from my grandparents and my brothers and sisters. So that's not my belief. So when I rewrite it, I think from myself and create my own beliefs from my own thinking. And then that's being myself. And then that's becoming a new me. And then my perspective on life, how I view life changes then because I change my belief. And that's what Earl Nightingale is getting at. Knowing himself and being himself. Knowing yourself and being yourself. You can't be yourself if you're running programs from other people. And you can't make decisions then, authentic decisions because you're not yourself. It's massive. It is huge. What do you think on that, mate?
Yeah, you're right. You do have to dig all of this stuff out. And the more you do it, the more you start spotting them coming up, within your actions, really. You might get a little want to do something, and then you go to do it, and you find there's a fear. And then you go, oh, like, what's that? You start spotting it, and you go, ah, there must be a belief there somewhere. I don't know what it is yet, but when you've got a coach and you've got the right system, like me and Joe, we have a belief sort of busting system so we can change our limiting beliefs, examine them, investigate, and see if they hold any truth whatsoever, which they never do. And then we can change them into an empowering belief. We can redirect that energy. And it
Yeah,
has us, taking new actions that make a positive difference. And you don't feel the fear. And like Jer says, your beliefs are in your subconscious. Now, another word for that subconscious could be unconscious. Therefore, they're making you do things without you giving any conscious thought to what you're doing. So you're acting out the same sort of life. And again, if you haven't got the awareness, then you're not going to be conscious of what you're doing on autopilot, which is could be giving you the results that you don't want to get. But you're doing it the same thing day in, day out, every day, even though you're not getting the results. I mean, why is that? It's, I think it's because people are unaware, and instead of having the awareness of wanting to dig all this stuff out and do all of this work and really get to know themselves, they would, I don't know if they would rather not do it, or they just are just unaware and they're happy to say, this is just who I am. The reality of me is me. You get those people, what you see is what you get type thing. And I think an authentic person is always challenging themselves and always sort of saying, this isn't the reality of me. This is just me at my present self. I don't know what I actually want to be yet. I'm constantly doing that. I'm doing that inner work and I'm constantly asking myself, what do I want? And the more I do it, the more I get to know myself. And the more I get to know myself, the more I can be myself. I can start acting that way. And over time, I'm going to be a credible and responsive person because I'm now living consciously. I'm designing my identity. I'm designing every little detail of how I want to act and how I want to show up in the world instead of just running this unconscious program, which, as Jer said, most of the time was sort of we inherited those sort of beliefs and those programs. I mean, Jer come across a couple of beliefs today that he found were misfire, and he consciously installed an empowering belief, but he had this deep limiting belief which he didn't consciously install, but they were running regardless. So,
yeah.
and that's just an example, I've had many myself, and every person probably has many. But the difference is the awareness. When you're aware, you can get to know yourself, and then you can start designing that life that you want to live and become that person you want to become. But if you're not really aware of how it all works, you could join the masses of other people who just say, this is me. I could never do that type thing.
It's not really you though. That's the thing. People say to me, "Oh, I am. This is me. Take me or leave me." But actually, it's not really you, is it? Because
Not
this belief system, like it is designed to, like our elders say, whoever, your parents or guardians, whoever raised you, it was their job to teach you to survive as an adult. And the only way that they knew was to pass on their knowledge to you. So every single person starts off with beliefs. It's called Bob Proctor calls it your paradigm. It's your belief system. So everybody starts off with this paradigm. Every single person in the world has one. You cannot have one. Like very rarely does someone actually create their own one. So you create it from other people. Um, and that's normal life. But it has to come a time in your life where you have to realize that actually, like, I'm making decisions on someone else's beliefs. So it's you're not really being your authentic self. You can never really be yourself. It's
Mhm.
really difficult to try and do. And then that why does people try so many, like, say, let's take one that people fail at the most is like weight loss. You know, you go, right, I want to lose like 10 kg, whatever it is. And then you go off for, and you start eating really healthy. And you do that for about 4 weeks or something. And then all of a sudden, the fifth week and the sixth week, and next minute you're back eating the crap that you're eating 6 weeks ago. So why are you going back to that? Because that's your paradigm. That's your beliefs. You maybe your whoever taught you, like your parents or your guardians, they maybe didn't cook the best food or whatnot, and you've created a habit of belief that that's the way you should eat. Bad eating habits. But you have to change it. You have to look at yourself because it's like autopilot. You will go back to it all the time. And once you get the awareness, you see it all the time, and it's really powerful. Even like I have the awareness now, and I still find myself doing things that I look at myself and go, "What? Why am I doing that?" It's very, very powerful. But once you have the awareness, you start looking at yourself in a very, very different way, and then that's when you can make change. Because you can't make change if you don't know there's something to change. If you just carry on drifting through the world, drifting through life. So a lot of people like think they're making decisions in life and think they're actually, this might sound a bit harsh, but actually living. Um, but then I don't think they really are, to be quite honest. I'm going to say it straight as it is. I think people are just drifting through life, running on old beliefs from their parents and grandparents and not making decisions for themselves. So they're going to make a decision that I want to, have an ordinary life, work my whole life, and then retire, and then live my life when I'm 75, 70. Now, where did that belief come from? Like, that's just a lot of bollocks. Why don't you live your life when you're 40? Like, and that's a belief system. And a majority of the world have that belief system. Like, me and Ant know that we we do not want to start living a life when we're 70 because we might not make it to 70. We want to start living now. So that's a major belief system that, like, it gets passed down from generation to generation. So you have to look at yourself and go, actually, so my parents passed that down, go get a job, safe job, pay into a pension, get a 3-bedroom house, like, live the normal life that everybody else lives, and then retire and then travel the world or do something cool when you're like old, well old, well not old, but you know what I mean? We can do a lot more when you're 40. Can't climb big mountains when you're 70, can you? We can, but it's going to be a lot harder, isn't it? You can't travel the world when you're like 75. You can, but you won't have as much energy as when you're 40, in your 40s or 50s. So that's an old belief that you've inherited from everybody around you. So you have to start thinking for yourself. You have to be your true, authentic self and go, actually, maybe I'm going to change my belief on that one and look at myself and go, well, I don't want to. I want to live my life now. I want to become financially free before that. Um, yeah, they're so strong beliefs. They make you can live your whole life just as, yeah, not really living. It's quite scary, to be quite honest. Do you actually want to, like, live your life or not live your life? There's some real deep questions people need to ask themselves in life.
Yeah, it is quite eerie, like you say, when you really think about it. And you kind of see this, like I've seen it with older people over the years, and they're always sort of telling younger people, like, whatever you want to go and do, go do it. And I think that comes from them having more time in their hands and they're self-reflecting over their own life. And they didn't make the decisions that they should have done, because of the fear or whatever it might have been that held them back. And they know now they're older and wiser, and they actually know I should have done that. And they
Yeah,
live in a little bit of regret, and they don't want other people, other young people, to go through that. And they do try and help people, but most young people just go, "Oh, they're old. What do they know?" Do you know what I mean? And don't listen to them. But that they do know. They do know. They've got life experience, and it comes down to your decision, really. Do you want to end up like that? I mean, I certainly don't. I don't think Jared does neither. That's why we do this work. And you're right when you say when you get in the habit of being watchful over your beliefs, you'll start picking up on things and you will notice little behaviors that you do, little thought habits you have. It could be negative self-talk that comes out of nowhere and you're doing it to yourself all the time and it's almost a form of self-sabotage that you didn't create, but it's there, it's in you because it's someone else's program. The good news is you can change all of this. You really can. And you can change it so fast, so fast. And if you want to do that, you just need to work with a coach and you can get that changed. So this is the end of the episode now. So we've really enjoyed this one. We always ask you if you've got any comments of yourself, please put them in the comment section because your thoughts are going to be really helpful. And we hope you've learned something valuable today. Joe made a point there of saying that, are you really being yourself? And if I can get this right, let's end on this thought, okay, from Bill Grove, because Bill Grove, he was a speaker that Bob Proctor heard, and Bob Proctor heard him say this, and I think it's really important. It'd be good to end it. So let me see if I can do it. He said, "If I want to be free, I've got to be me. Not the me I think my wife thinks I should be, not the me I think my kids think I should be. If I'm going to be free, I've got to be me. So I need to know who me is."
spot on.
I think that's right. But that's a good statement. I think that's a good way to end this episode. We'll see you in the next one.